Hi, this is Matt Kelly, and this is going to be my media analysis on immigration reform. So, this analysis is going to be very heavily based on recent comments by this guy, former President George W. Bush. President Bush recently came out and made quite a few comments on immigration reform, and I'm going to be looking at how two media sources cover things a bit differently. So, just a bit of an introduction. Immigration reform refers to finding a legal pathway for, a lot of immigrants that are considered illegal coming from, heavily war-torn areas like Mexico, from the drug cartels, and other more impoverished countries. They can't come here legally because the system is not properly set up, and it's difficult for them to find a suitable pathway for citizenship just because of the financial strain around it. When looking at our literature from the course, Sol and Warwick describe that jobs have shifted very heavily to service economy, so away from manufacturing, very much so, complicating the job search even more for these peoples from areas where they're migrating. Very often they would get jobs that Americans don't want. And a lot of those, manufacturing jobs are those kinds of jobs. Recent, famous example is picking fruit in rural areas. So the media outlets that I looked at for this analysis, on the left-leaning side, we have Politico. On the right-leaning side, we have Fox News. So for the left-leaning factors, Politico describes that the op-ed that Bush published, where he made these comments, is, it puts him in line with a lot of the GOP, the Republicans, who he was previously aligned with. Indicating this conflict within the Republican Party is a very left-leaning, spin that's being pointed here. Others in the GOP, would entertain a deal, but it really is they're pointing out how picky certain Republicans can be around this topic. The left-leaning approach also makes a specific focus to dreamers here. So a dreamer would be someone that's trying to gain citizenship, who was, they were born here, children of immigrants, and the modernization is something that they want to point out, the left-leaning, because they want to make the audience sympathetic for the dreamers so that they are able to get citizenship, if you're more in line with harsher reform. On the right-leaning side, for Fox News, we have, they heavily point out Fox is very, the right is very much against reform. They're more pro-border security. They don't believe that, a lot of illegals should be allowed here. They believe that you should come here legally and work to get in legally, and the borders of the country are worth protecting. They call for a rejection of amnesty for all. They bring out about how Bush has failed to do this before. They bring about how, smaller bills have tried to promote this, but it has not been accepted by the right. And this is to really reach out to the right-leaning audience that is reading this particular article, the right-leaning audience there. Similarity between the two is something very much worth looking at. They both talk here about, need for English proficiency, a need to pay taxes, a requirement for learning U.S. history. So there is definitely both an important approach there. More in the next part.